Hello, hello. This is the Chicas Plus Equals podcast, a place where two chicas from Eastern Europe navigate real life. We're talking health, habits, mindset, relationships, and everything in between. Join the girl talk.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. How are we feeling today?
Oh my
It's
god.
November. Happy November.
Oh yeah, Halloween has just passed. Did you celebrate Halloween?
No, I never do that. I never pay attention. I don't even like horrors. So I didn't do anything. And I wanted to buy some decorations for autumn, just, something to spice things up a little bit in the apartment. And everything was just for Halloween.
I mean,
And I was a
pumpkins
little
are
bit
nice.
Yeah, I couldn't find them. Yeah, everything was just for Halloween. I was disappointed.
Have you tried my pumpkin pie recipe?
I haven't. However, yesterday I made pumpkin cream soup. Oh my god. But your recipe, the one you sent me about pumpkin pie, is next on the list.
So, to give people context, Jovana was trying to get ready for like autumn season. So, I got one of my mom's like traditional Romanian recipes, which has like a bajillion different steps and a ton of like every single second step is add oil.
And but it was so sweet. I received so many photos. Like, you put an effort, and I really, really appreciate it. Both you and your mom. I can imagine, like, her. Is this good? Can she see well? Does she see what I'm putting it, what I'm mixing it? It was so sweet.
She was so happy to share. She literally was like taking a photo because she was the one who took the photos. I was working.
Really?
I wasn't there with her. Do you think I have the time?
I know. I imagined because your parents. You said you were chilling, and I imagined that was like a nice bonding time, like spending time together, like working on the recipe on this sweet autumn dessert. And I thought that you were the one next to her taking photos. Oh my god. Okay, so now I'm even more touched. Please say thank you once again. Really?
I will. I think she was very enthusiastic by the fact that she could share her knowledge with somebody that's interested in baking her recipes. Because I don't ever cook Romanian things or traditional food because I'm afraid there's too much bad stuff in there. And there's obviously this goes straight to the heart of the matter of today's episode, which is fitness and our relationship with nutrition and fitness, which you can kind of get a sneak peek from my answer. I had a very struggled, tense relationship with food and training. So I still have some of the remnants of that when it comes to, for example, like cooking or baking. I never bake because I only bake like healthy stuff, which are more expensive, take a bit more time. And I used to love doing those, but I would never, for example, use one of my mom's recipes or make my mom happy by cooking something she knows how to cook because I don't like that style of cooking and I don't like how calorie dense all the traditional things are. I obviously eat some of them, but I don't enjoy cooking them. Hence why my mom would probably appreciate if I were a bit more like you.
Well, I have I share same opinion with you with our Serbian traditional food. We put a lot of oil, we put a lot of flour, we use, sunflower oil, we use all the worst things, basically. But not to judge the, like, good food, bad ingredients, but there are some ingredients out there who are, cause some health issues. Just, people didn't care before, and I understand that. But when I started
Especially in
making
communism.
No. When I started making those traditional recipes and I tried to make them healthier, in some recipes, I add olive oil instead of, sunflower oil. In some recipes, this doesn't work because it's just you feel the olive oil and you taste it and it's not good. But for example, anything that has with cooking meats, I stopped like a year ago cooking meat with oil. I'm only doing it with water. And so, for example, when I'm making something like moussaka here, when I cook my meat, for example, I don't use oil at all. So in a way, I prepare the whole thing without any oil. And the taste is not different at all. It's just healthier. And I'm trying to use just beef meat instead of beef plus pork. So I try to make it healthier in some way that I can. Because I am with you. I just like there are some things, especially now, like we're gonna get to this point in this episode. Now, like knowing what I know, learning what I learned, and like how the diet that I changed so much from beginning of my fitness journey, even before that. And now it's so much different. And now I'm like, I can't eat that. Like, I can't. It's just there's something inside of me that it's like when my dad prepared omelet with so much oil, you could only feel oil. I couldn't eat that. I'm like, you need to put oil too so it doesn't burn. I'm like, no, but this is too much. So we're diving straight into it, but to go back at the very beginning, what
I've
inspired you to start this fitness journey?
To make it less abrupt, I'll connect the previous thing you said about your dad's cooking and the Romanian recipes to how I got into it. Since we were both from similar countries, we kind of share the same food culture, more or less, and it's very much, at least in my background, at least in my family. Okay, this whole thing goes back a long, long way. It's unfortunately, I didn't grow up in an environment where people were educated on nutrition, and frankly, actually more so, I grew up in an environment where there was a scarcity surrounding resources such as food. So my parents, for them, if it's food, then it's good. At least we have something to eat, which for them, it wasn't always the case, having grown up in communism. But for me, in my case, they just gave me whatever, absolutely whatever. They were just happy to have the option to give me a bajillion types of chocolate from 5 different countries that we got from the supermarket, or, cook Romanian traditional food, which requires a lot of expensive ingredients and a lot of time with a lot of oil. Everything is very delicious, very tasty. Again, in contrast to what they were used to eating when there were, fractions and portions, and everything was controlled by the state. So there was a lot of food freedom in the house, let's say. And because of that, I grew up chubby, and there was no such thing as, oh, sugar is bad or food is bad or anything. We just had no knowledge and no education about it. So because of adverse experiences, bullying and stuff, I ended up at around 16 really becoming very obsessed with the thing. But it was, to take it step by step, it was a very long journey. It was almost as if my mom had no idea why I was chubby when I was a kid. She'd never really stopped to think, oh, maybe it's because of what I'm giving to this kid. So from the age of 10, there used to be these agencies called Herbalife. I'm actually calling them out because I think it's an awful company. They would sell these shakes, these fitness shakes, to people. It's again one of those Ponzi schemes like Oriflame, where you get money the more products you buy. So it matters just how many people are in the organization, not how many products you actually sell. So I remember being 10 and being with my mom in one of these offices, and this lady was just obviously doing her whole marketing pitch, the whole sales shenanigans that, very Western of her, she was using on my mom and a 10-year-old kid. And my mom, knowing like she didn't know better, she started replacing 2 of my meals a day with those shakes. So I was at 10 eating once a day with 2 of those shakes, and I was a very active kid. I was going outside playing and all that sort of stuff. But it worked for a while, and I remember kids starting noticing, and it was a bit weird. Like, I don't think that's something I should be worried about at the age of 11, but it is what it is. And then obviously that pushed back, and it made me gain even more weight in between the ages of, adolescence, when you grow the most. And by the time I was an adolescent, I was chubby. I wasn't obese, thankfully, but I wasn't fit, and you could tell that, you could see. And my mom and I would keep going on and off to the gym and stuff, usually in summertime. There was not a culture of doing sports. I remember I was really passionate about swimming, and they would take me out of the class because, it inconvenienced their schedule. So even that opportunity of doing sports kind of it wasn't treated as something that's important at all. So I ended up being a very sedentary kid with a lot of food available. Perfect recipe. So that's how it started. I mean, that's the background of it. Do you feel like this is something that's similar to how you were raised, or was it different?
I first want to ask you, when did these shakes stop happening? Like, when did she realize maybe this is not good?
Or maybe like after half a year maximum, something like that. Because these things don't last for long,
Yeah.
It's just unsustainable, and it's something that we wouldn't advise 20-year-olds, like full-on adults, to do, let alone a kid.
Yeah. Wow. Well, for me, I grew up watching my mom struggle with her weight because because she was very, when she was young, she was very active. She was doing folklore, and she was, especially back then, you didn't have taxis. I lived in a small city. She grew up in that same city. They didn't have buses, so you have to walk everywhere. And she was very active. And in one moment, like when she was 30, 31, 32, she had health problems. She had thyroid, yeah, problem, and that really affected her weight, among other things. And she gained very quickly a lot of weight. That started basically when I was born, because she got me when she was 31, I believe.
Oh.
Yeah, so I watched her struggling with her own image, physical image, and her being on lots of different diets, trying lots of different things. And I was also chubby when I was young. I wasn't very active, actually. I was, active just when I would go to my cousin's place, and there were a lot of kids, you run, you play games, stuff like that. But I was out. But that wasn't something that would happen often, that I would sleep over at my cousin's place. That was it. We didn't have like swimming pools. We didn't have dance clubs, like for some other activities. I was never interested in that, and my parents were never really, I guess, interested in, me enrolling in some of these things, because I really don't think there were many options back then. How I grew up was I was eating a lot of sandwiches. Oh my god, I could eat almost the whole bread with just salami, ketchup, mayo, and cream, sour cream, lots of yogurt. I could eat the whole bread with just Nutella, and that was like I would watch SpongeBob and eat that, and that would be my Saturday morning. I guess my dad didn't want to maybe think that something was. I guess he didn't want to say anything to let's say stop me from continuing like this, because he was afraid maybe I would be angry or whatever. Those are some other things on his side that he was afraid that how I was gonna react. So he let me do whatever basically I wanted. That resulted, yeah, and that resulted in me being chubby and overweight. That goes back to what we talked about in last episode. I would cover it up with clothes and jackets and everything, like just to not see my arms, my belly. Didn't feel comfortable. I was on so many diets, Bianca, you name it, I've done it. Like, not even that, I've done it with my mom.
What age was this?
I was in elementary school and high school.
Elementary or wait,
yeah, end of the elementary and basically whole high school. Even before high school, definitely, because I noticed I was aware of my weight when kids started teasing me and like joking. So I tried only eating soup for 3 weeks, like just soup. Imagine how healthy that is. But what I realized way later, when I was thinking again on that period of my life and how I was treating my body back then, is how my mom didn't know, both my dad, for example, my mom didn't stop and think, okay, is this normal? Like for me to act like this, for me to eat how I ate? This is not me pointing fingers and telling, oh, my parents, not at all. I'm just saying my mom also struggled with this. So instead of, maybe encouraging me to change my diet in a good way, healthy way, she didn't also know how to do that. So she was on diets and I was with her.
Yeah.
And we were on yo-yo diets, of course. And it was just a vicious cycle.
To be honest, that's normal in our background. And sadly, I think it all comes down to a lack of education.
Yeah.
Which is, it wasn't under our control how many books our parents read. So it's just like we are the ones that can do the research afterwards.
Yeah.
If I were to continue that segue, that journey I think that's how it started for me, is I reached a point where I realized that I am responsible for, I can take initiative. I can get control of my own, the food I put in my body. And stop relying on what my parents say. So when I took that accountability, I took the responsibility and made myself accountable to having a healthy diet, that's when things really started to change. Because until the age of 16, I would go, for example, to the gym and stuff, but I would go to the gym because of my mom, or we would go together. But I think it was like even younger than that, 14 or 16, when I started educating myself on nutrition nutrition and what I was supposed to be doing and researching. And for me, it really started with a passion for researching this sort of stuff. And I remember when it started with, I think it's called the military diet or something. It's a sort of diet that it's an eating plan that's very little calories, something around 1200 a day.
Wow.
And
For such a young age.
I was 16 at that point. Like, I wasn't young anymore. 16, 14,
okay.
something like that. Like, we're talking adolescence or later adolescence. So, starting from this place of, okay, my parents don't really know what's good for me. Let's figure it out myself. I stumbled upon these diets and more nutrition concepts and really looked into what makes you fat, what doesn't make you fat, what actually... I dived really deeply into it because I'm a big geek. So, I went down to the chemistry of it and nutrition, and I really wanted to understand what the carb is, what the protein is, how different nutrients or how does glucose interact with other things in your body. And there's a lot of research out there. And I remember I used to listen to this, I think he's a doctor. He would go through papers, or he would review papers on most recent nutrition or like diets or nutrition techniques or weight loss techniques. And among some of them were being vegan, like vegetarian, vegan, stuff like that. So I started with, initially was the military diet and calorie control, but then it went into trying, like, testing all of these researched methods. And to be honest, I mean, I didn't know at the time, but after years of looking into this, these are American papers most of the time. And there are a few topics that gain popularity in the 70s or 80s in the States. And, they went from thinking that being vegan is the best thing to help with diabetes to thinking keto is the best way to deal with diabetes, which are the completely different things. So yeah, I started with the military diet, and that's like something that I only did for a few weeks, maybe just a few weeks. And to be honest, for me, it helped me get into this mindset of, okay, now I'm trying. Now I'm actually trying. And you really have to do trial and error until you figure out what works for you. So with that decision of I'm going to figure this out on my own, I started playing with my diet, and I reduced my calories. I tried different food groups, eliminating food groups, adding food groups. This whole of adding and eliminating food groups is something that lasted for years, actually, for like a year and a half, throughout the period in which I lost weight and I started going to the gym. And I really loved the process, I must say. Like, I loved the process, but we will discuss I'll leave it to the end to figure out, where it went wrong. But that's kind of what I end up doing. And after doing all these things and doing all these experiments with, I was vegan for a while as well. I remember I started being vegan at the end of middle school, where around the time where we used to have, because I think I started around, I said 16, but that's not true. It's like at 14, 15, that's when 15 before high school. At 16, I already had some experience and I started like losing weight, and that's when I had like my peak moment. But obviously this takes a while, so it started around 15 when I had the exam. And I remember my mom, I started cooking for myself as well. Back to, our parents don't really cook healthy food. Why would I let them cook for me if I know they don't, I don't like anything that they were cooking? So this is a very long segue, but I should have said that I started by being vegan and by starting cooking for myself vegan food, because my parents had no idea how to cook vegan.
How long were you vegan?
Vegan?
How long were you?
A few months. I don't know, 3 months, something like that. I really loved it.
Do you remember why you stopped?
Yeah. Well, I stopped because, so I started being vegan, and then that really helped me, teach myself how to cook, because I was quite young and I never really cooked for myself until then. Teach myself how to cook and really be mindful of the nutrients that go into my food. So I would be counting calories, when I was cooking, but also macronutrients. So, am I having enough protein? What has protein? What has fats? What has carbs? So I knew how to juggle with them. And after that, I started going to the gym. And because I was going to the gym, I needed to have a lot more protein. So in order to keep my calories low enough, it was more efficient to eat more animal-based products, because you can get more proteins and more nutrients with less calories. Like 100 grams of chicken breast will give you the amount of protein that you would get from 300 grams of lentils or something like that. So I think that's when that's kind of that was the next most logical step forward. And then afterwards, I started to really go into the whole jungle of theories in terms of how much carbs should you go, low fat, low carb, low everything. I tried it all. And I must say, I never managed to go fully keto because I found that disgusting, to be honest. Like, I need my veggies. I really need my veggies. I could never do keto. Like, I have some friends who like follow animal-based diets, and they're called, what are they called? Like, carnivore diets. I have some friends who follow that, and I just can't. I just really think, you have to eat the rainbow. And it's a lot more fun to cook with the rainbow. So yeah, that's kind of how it went. I developed a passion for nutrition, cooking, fitness, and then it all went down from there.
You started earlier than I did. My fitness journey started, and just like nutritious journey started. Well, first my fitness journey started, if I can say it like that. First, I started paying attention on my movement. That was at the very end of high school when my dad, he was always active. He never pushed me to be active, but before that moment, I guess he was inspiration. He was exercising basically every night or every other night at home.
Really?
He had his dumbbells. He made, those big water bottles. You cut them and then you fill them with cement.
What? I've never seen that in my life.
That was his version of creating dumbbells. Put pipe between them to make them as like bench press and whatever he was exercising. But I really loved it. That didn't stop him. He was he was on his own journey. Yes, exactly. So I started with watching him. He knew my struggles with weight at that time, and I would watch him exercising, and then after that, when he finished his hour of exercising, he would come with me to exercise together. And let me tell you, my first exercises were literally just what we're doing for stretching. Literally. Like, what now when I'm stretching, this is what I did as an exercise. Like, I didn't do any dumbbells, any weights, nothing, just literally focusing on just moving my body. And we were doing some exercises for stomach, some crunches, nothing special, and that was it. And that's how I started, very slowly. And then when I started university, when I moved to Belgrade, I found Zumba. That was fun. So I started with Zumba. I loved, when you go, the music was, I love the playlist, it's all like Latino music, reggaeton and stuff like that. So I loved that. And, like, I love choreographies. It's not just dancing for the sake of dancing, but just you create choreographies. And later we even performed a few times. It was so fun. And I really enjoyed like that hour of just dancing, sweating, and not thinking about anything. After that, I started paying attention on my foods. But how I started paying attention on food is through watching YouTube videos. I started watching YouTube videos of girls, in US, and those like productive girlies and like fitness, health, lifestyle YouTubers. They were talking about chia seeds, flax seeds. I didn't even know what that was. She was like, I'm making my porridge for breakfast, and I'm going to add some chia seeds for antioxidants, and I'm going to add some flax seeds. I was like, let me Google that. What is that? And I Googled it in Serbian, and I still didn't know what it was. So I had to do my... I never knew about
I know
this
the feeling.
Yes. So slowly but surely I started paying attention, learning from them. I wasn't blindly just following what they were doing. I was just curious of what they were doing and what foods do they use and how would they combine it and what they were generally just talking about it. And so I just started doing doing that and trying to do my own research about different kinds of diets and what is good, what's, just getting there and slowly combining going to Zumba, being, physically active in some way with, okay, well, since I'm doing that part, let me also do other part. Let me focus on foods as well.
So when we're doing this research or looking at people online and what they were doing, because to be honest, that's how I also started as well, is obviously the first teacher I had. To be honest, when I was a teen, whenever I had a question about anything in life, I would Google it. I would just go on YouTube and try to find something about it. I also started with that, and I think the military diet and all this information about going vegan and what to eat and how to cook. I mean, obviously, as a 15-year-old, starting to cook for yourself, I didn't learn from my mom how to do these things. I learned from Mother YouTube. So like I also would follow these girls, but eventually I started going from, I guess what I'm asking is, were you only looking at what they were cooking, or did you ever go through macronutrients counting and calorie counting and all this, like, you know, very this black hole of nutrition media online where people talk about that? Because I went from just following what people were eating and diets and stuff and tips about nutrition to starting to first of all started looking at, you know, there is this there is competitions, like these fitness competitions and like bikini competitions they're called, that bodybuilders would go to. And I mean, the more I looked into this, the more I experimented with this, I went from looking at these, you know, what I eat in a day and what I eat in this calorie count a day or what I cook and stuff, to starting to look at these pros and how they were really obsessing over every single macronutrient. And I also started using MyFitnessPal, which was, to be honest, that was the catalyst of my like nutrition obsession, because I could now count everything. I could Google every single thing that I was eating. I could count it, and then I started measuring stuff as well. And I would, like, because I was so scared and I was so, I mean, I have certain traits of always going a bit extreme, but I remember, you know, every single calorie counted, and I was so scared to eat 1 gram more or half a gram more or something like that. I remember to this day. And so yeah, for me, when I couldn't let anyone touch my food, whenever I would go outside and I would like hang out with friends, I would always have tea, never have like, I would never
milkshake, for example.
Sorry, I was got distracted a bit okay, I thought I heard something. Yeah, so I would go out and I would never eat around other people, because I was, you know, there were these sayings, there was these things that I followed as if they were gospel. So there's stuff like, you know, when you eat around other people, it's a lot easier to overeat. So I would never eat around other people. I would, you know, there was also science about combining fats and sugars and how that created, you know, clogged arteries and stuff like that. Because I ended up looking at the same time at diabetes, like nutrition tips, because my dad has diabetes. So I was like, okay, I don't want to end up like my dad. What should I? And I also kind of tried to learn this, and I remember the period is I tried to learn all of this because I was at that time my dad got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and I wanted to help him. So I was like, okay, I am going to learn how to cure type 2 diabetes so my dad gets better. My dad never really gave a shit about nutrition, by the way. But I learned and I learned a lot of things, and there was these things about, like, you know, not combining certain macronutrients and how, you know, if you eat more than this amount of sugar a day, you don't lose fat. And that was something that I really that was my one of the most fundamental things that I followed too much, is don't eat sugar at all. I went no sugar whatsoever, and hence why I would be cooking. I would make like sweets and stuff, like sugar-free bakes and sugar-free desserts, and I would have stevia all the time. My dessert would be like, I don't know, sweetened milk or something, like very, very restrictive.
Was he open to learn later on when you learn? Oh, you start smiling, so he wasn't.
No. My dad is a very self-indulging man. So he likes his Romanian food. He doesn't really. He's not very conscientious. He's like the opposite. So he didn't quite. To this day, is like. I mean, he tries now more than he did before, but at the time, no. I used it for myself at the end.
No, I never cared about macros. Part of the reason I never dived into it because part of the reason was because I was scared that it would suck me in, that I would be so
Oh.
controlling. As you said, like if I eat gram more, it would be like, oh my god, I overate. It's gonna be a disaster. And I never paid attention because I was always in my head. I was like, okay, I'm trying my best to eat healthy. I'm trying to eat whole foods as much as I can. I'm preparing foods for myself. I never ordered food. Not never ever, but it was very rare occasion when
Mm-hmm.
I would order food. When I lived in dormitory when I was student, I never ordered when I was alone. It was only when I was with my roommate and I don't know, we felt like, oh, okay, let's order something, which was very rarely. So that was never an issue. So I was always, cooking, preparing food. When I started living with my previous roommates, that might, because there were some moments when I wanted to pay more attention on macros. And I would just get lost and I was like, okay, this is overwhelming. This is too much. I have to pay attention to this and that. I have to measure this. I have to know about that. Oh my God. And I met my roommates back then and they were doing that. Like they knew everything. When I would had food in my plate, they would knew exactly how many
Oh, wow.
calories were there, and
Yes.
I didn't want to look at my plate and see calories. I wanted to look at my plate and see food, which I know that not everyone, there are people who have healthy boundaries with that. That they know, okay, I'm not going to be so obsessive about this. But I was afraid that I didn't have that
That's such a
strength
good
in me.
self-awareness. That's such good self-awareness. What made you be so cautious?
Because it made me be so cautious because I didn't. Okay, my problem, my whole life, I was very push and pull. Let's say with my, I didn't have very healthy relationship with food. I started having it in university. I didn't want to mess that up, and I was
Mm-hmm.
afraid that being starting tracking calories and macros would maybe mess it up. That I would
Mm-hmm.
be obsessed with it because there was some points where I still, in some moments, I would look at my mirror, even though by that time I lost 20 kilograms. I would
Oh,
look and
wow.
yeah, I would still from time to time look in the mirror and see my old version, when I was 20
Oh my.
kilograms more, and I would see like, oh my God, I look like I didn't lost anything. So there was still moments when I have to
Yes.
convince myself, talk to myself, be my own friend. And I didn't want to mess that up with
Yeah.
calorie counting because I don't think I was there in that
Mm-hmm.
I was ready for it.
I mean, it could also have been the fact that you saw your mom go through it and you just didn't want to put yourself through that again.
Yeah, and also didn't like how my roommates saw their food. Like that they would know a box of cereals, and like they would put and like, oh, this is this amount of calories, and like they would, if to me it was good. It's good to be aware. It's good to know what you're putting in your food. It's good to know that you're hitting your goals. But in my opinion, from how I saw it, it wasn't too healthy.
Obviously, it wasn't. I was just about to say, you are so healthy. Honestly, if this is a reoccurring theme in this podcast, is that you are
Oh
usually
my
the
god.
one that takes the healthiest path. And I just wanted to ask you more about that because I find it fascinating how we had a similar delta between what weight we were at before and how much we lost, because during that time where I was counting and stuff, I also lost like 25 kilograms or something. I ended up pushing it to 30 something to the span of 2 years. But mine was very extreme. Mine, after a while, I end up, okay, I don't want to jump ship here, but isn't it funny how, you were balanced, you were patient, you were healthy, and in the end, you got the same result. You got a result that lasted, and you got a result that was a big, big result. Whereas sometimes people can get so caught up on having an ambitious fitness goal and thinking, I have to be extreme and I have to do everything I can to lose this weight as fast as possible. And that's when they end up like me in a position where you end up becoming a bit too extreme, push your body maybe a bit too much. So to give context, after I started educating myself and stuff like that, I unfortunately started with a calorie deficit. Like I was just, okay, I'm not going to eat more than 1200 calories ever. And I ended up sticking to that for like 6 months and training and like cooking. And I was training very hard. And I love training. That's when I discovered my interest in it and the type of trainings I would do. There was no way any Zumba. I did not like Zumba. It's not for me. I was all about weight training. I'm just not coordinated. I can't dance for the life of me yet. But I couldn't dance, so definitely that's not for me. I went into weight training because I knew that the best way to lose weight was to build muscle. And the best way to increase your metabolism was to build muscle. As someone who was, for example, eating very little and trying to burn as much as possible and you know, struggling, clearly hating my body in so many ways because I was trying to change it so much, I ended up doing weight training and it was fun. I really liked it. So, you know, I would do HIIT. Initially, it started with training at home because I was too embarrassed to maybe go at the gym. Yeah, it was a bit embarrassing at first just because, I don't know, I felt it was more convenient to do it from home. And HIIT was really good. I absolutely loved. I have like a 300 video playlist with all the workouts that I collected over the years, and I would have a full-on training regime at home with everything you needed, like lower body, upper body, abs, and I would train. Sometimes if it was HIIT, initially it started bit by bit, you know, it started with I'll train 30 minutes a day every single day, one HIIT workout, and then it compounded into 45 minutes, an hour. You know, the more fit I got, the more I would do. And then I also added morning workouts, like first thing in the morning, do some exercises because it helps boost your metabolism from the beginning of the day. So I used every single micro tool possible to make sure that I do this. I really wanted to succeed at this, and ideally I really wanted to have abs. Like that was the thing in my mind. I wanted abs. Eventually I got them, but you know, with this sort of extreme scenario, for me it lasted quite a while, and it lasted better of maybe 1.5 years, 2 years, and it was, to be honest, it was fun. It was great. I felt the best I felt in terms of simply because my fitness was really good, and whenever you have like good enough muscle mass and agility and you can run, you can sprint, you can have all this energy, you feel a lot more alive. But the problem was my weight loss started to stagnate, so I started doing reverse dieting, which is you add more calories each week bit by bit so you increase your metabolism. And funnily enough, when I did that, I started losing even more weight. So this was the way I tried, like, you know, I would do something, then it would plateau, then I would do something else, then it would plateau again. And this is how I tried so many things, and I would always switch my technique. You know, I went from having 83 kilograms to 54 in 2 years. After doing that and doing the reverse dieting, which helped me kind of lose the last 10 kilograms, I started noticing that I have some issues regarding my food and lifestyle and, you know, the way I think about. I had body dysmorphia, like you just mentioned, is, you know, I would always look at myself even when I was 50 kilograms and I would still feel, and I would still think that I was fat. I would still feel fat. And I look back at those photos on days that I knew I was judging myself when I took that photo, and I look at it now and I'm like, wow, you were so skinny. Why? It's weird. It might be because sometimes we have an image in mind or an expectation of how we would look at a certain weight.
Yeah.
But when that image doesn't match, in my case, perfection, then it's not good enough. So I naturally have a larger torso. I don't have a tiny waist even when I'm very, very skinny. And that was something that would piss me off so much. It's like, okay, then I have to lose even more weight. And it's like, Bianca, no, if you lose more weight, you're not going to change your freaking bone structure.
Yeah, let me shrink my bones.
yeah, let me just, oh God. It was funny.
I wanted to ask you, have you, in those 2 years while you were doing all of that, have you had this all or nothing mentality where you start something like, okay, I'm gonna start tomorrow, I'm gonna be disciplined, I'm gonna have my plan and goal, and then maybe you go out with friends or, you know, I don't know, it's like, it's not your day, or it was, you know, emotional eating, it's a real thing, like you were sad or whatever, you ate something that you, on quotes, wasn't supposed to, or it wasn't part of your plan, and you're like, oh my God, everything went to hell. Let me just completely ruin it for today, and I'll start on Monday, you know? Did you have that? If everything is not perfect, as you mentioned, like perfectionism, I had problems with that.
No, I didn't have that because I just wanted to succeed. So if I made a mistake, I'd readjust and continue. But I never had those, like I never gave up until I really hit rock bottom.
Not that you give up like completely. You just, okay, today you ate something, you start your day nicely and it went nice. You you had your exercise and then it was dinner time and you ate something that you were like, let's say,
Yeah,
unhealthy,
no, I understand.
and
I
you
know
got
yeah.
pissed and
Okay, tell me about how it was for you, because I have no experience whatsoever with this. I know other people do it, but I just not how it
yeah,
works.
I was for a very long time. I was the girl who was like, I'll start on Monday. I'll start on Monday. Because every Monday I would start, and sometime during that week, something would go wrong, as it does, it's life. And I would be like, now I have to start fresh. Let me start fresh on Monday. Let me create a new plan. I can do better. I'm gonna be more disciplined. And that was another vicious cycle that I was doing for a while until I realized that everything you're doing matters, even if it's a little thing, and like it doesn't that one bad meal for the day, on quotes bad, will not ruin your progress. It took me a
Oh,
while to understand that, to be like, okay, it's just one, on quotes, bad thing that I'm doing, that maybe I overate tonight and I wasn't supposed to, or it's not the best. And I was like, okay, tomorrow it's a new day. I can start it again. But it wasn't from that mentality of where I would punish myself. Oh, I have to start harder, because for a long time you mentioned weights are very important. Weight training is very important for fat loss journey. I didn't know that for a very beginning and first part of my fitness journey. I was that person who was like, those people you listen on media, eat less, exercise more. That's not how it goes, and it's not a good, healthy mentality to have. So it took me a while to understand.
help me understand this, because I was doing all these things where I was very extreme in the way I was approaching things and always changing stuff. So I never ever had this thing of I'll try tomorrow. For me, was a lifestyle, and I realized at the beginning of making the decision is going to be a lifestyle. So I never had a day off. I decided it's going to be a lifestyle, and I was so inspired by that end vision that nothing was going to stop me from getting there. And hence why I was using I was making sure that every single detail is right. But what the problem was, after a while, I started noticing that obviously my mood wasn't in check. This is where I was a bit too underweight. Like, my mood was all over the place. My hormones were really bad. I started having amenorrhea for more or so a year and something, maybe a year and a half. And I remember this day my friend asked me to like eat, on 1st of March in Romania, it's a like spring day, and usually girls are gifted chocolates, and like from guys and other girls. So you'd always have on that day like 20 different chocolates, and every single girl would have it. So people would share it, and I would never touch any of them. And a friend of mine was really concerned about me, and she challenged me, is like, eat this piece of chocolate just to prove that you don't have an issue with it. And I ate it to kind of prove that of course I can eat it.
This is very like scene from the movie or a TV show, like.
Yeah, it was definitely like that. And I remember after I did that, I remember the drive back home with my mom, I kept going on and on about how sorry and regretful I felt that I ate that. It was literally not even 10 grams of chocolate. It was like 5. It was a tiny, tiny chocolate. But because I didn't want to eat any sugar, I was just like beating myself up mentally. And when I noticed that, I was like, okay, that's not fine, that's not okay. And I think that was the friend's challenge, and my amenorrhea really, it took a while to realizing I have a problem to actually doing something about it. And apparently there is an issue, there is like an actual illness regarding this. It's akin to anorexia, but it's not anorexia. It's called orthorexia, which is basically when you become obsessed with how you're eating, what you're eating, and obsessed with clean eating, which was what I was doing. And for a while I was like, oh, that's not a big issue. But because I was training so hard and I really cared about being strong, I cared about my bone health a lot, and my mental health, like my mind health itself. And I remembered the reading that having amenorrhea or not having your period for a year and more can affect your bone mass and your mind itself, and also your fertility. But the thing that really pushed it for me is I remember I was doing a handstand, and I looked at my hands, which were very, very small. I have quite big hands, so my wrist looked kind of small in comparison. And I was doing this thing, and I got kind of scared. It's like, okay, I'm putting my body through a lot of stress, and I don't want to mess something up. And I was like, okay, my wrist was really small basically, and I was like, okay, I'm tiny. I'm tiny and I'm not treating myself with the care that I should be. So I made a decision to then go into recovery, which we met 6 months within my recovery period. So whereas you had this very careful approach where, and like to also to give the end result, what this thing got me to is, yes, I got the abs and I got the weight and I got all that sort of stuff, but I didn't get it in a way that would be long lasting.
But you had this, you knew that you want this to be your lifestyle. I later realized that I want this to actually be my lifestyle, because for a long time, this was, for me, at the beginning, this was only about look. Going back to being bullied when I was younger, I connected my worth and how I saw myself with my look. It was, at the beginning, it was just for the looks for me. And I didn't care about, not care, I don't want to say I didn't care, but it wasn't my focus for it to be my lifestyle and to actually live like that. So I guess that's why it was difficult.
You know, it's interesting. That's the reason why I actually went into recovery. And recovery implies that you gain weight. So I actively chose to gain weight so I don't have that fear of how others would look at me. Like, I reached a point where I cared about how I look, and I didn't want to have that fear. So I was like, okay, I have the body that I always dreamed I'd have. Let me give it up so I don't have the fear of not having this body, which sounds very confusing. But it was basically that. So tell me, how do you keep a healthy relationship with food?
For me, it was, as I mentioned, not tracking it. That was for me. I needed to be more educated about food, about different foods, because it took a while for me not to label food as good as or bad. I would see food like that. Pasta was a no-go. Oh my God, there was recently, you know how Messenger now has this option to bring memories from the chat, like some pictures that you sent randomly years ago. There was some memory picture that I sent to my mom when I was in university, and I don't know if it was my lunch or dinner. I ate tuna with garlic and with steamed broccoli. It was just steamed broccoli, not seasoned or whatever, probably just salt. Tuna with rice cake and garlic. That's
never.
what
I could never.
I was looking at that. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Wow.
It took a while because I was, what helped me was actually doing the research, realizing that I don't want this to be just a phase. I don't want to, like, okay, be perfect for 1 month and then what? Because things are going to happen. I'm going to celebrate birthday celebrations. I'm going to have cake. Like, I don't want to be afraid to eat the goddamn cake. I don't want to, I want to enjoy food because I have always enjoyed food. I'm a foodie. I love eating and I like enjoying it. And so I had to learn how to change my mindset through researching and actually having constant conversation with myself, because I would watch all the inspirational videos, listen to what they were going through, their mistakes, what they've done, see what suits me, filter it through my own life and my own opinions.
Okay.
And as you said, experiment, like, do this. Is it good? How do I feel?
Yeah. Okay. You started Zumba. You've started being more active because your dad taught you how to do exercise. And then you go to university and you start thinking about being more mindful of how you eat, but also, trying to incorporate nutrition and diet in a healthy way and being mindful of your food. What strikes me as super impressive here is how you managed to have a successful weight loss whilst also being balanced. Can you tell us more a bit about that and how it was for you?
I think it changed because my mentality changed and I realized how much Zumba helped, because I started Zumba with my roommate and we started together. It was like, oh, this is fun, let's start. And we were doing it for a few months, and then it was at the beginning of university, and then we had exam season and she stopped because she decided, okay, this is 3 times a week, 1 hour, I would use this time to study. I didn't want to stop because I know how stressful this period is and I needed something to have, because I was in library for hours studying and I just needed something to, for those 3 hours per week, not think about exams. And it helped me so much, not physically only, but mentally as well. And I decided to continue. And so Zumba is how I started. And then I was like, okay, I'm in Belgrade. There are so many things to do and try in Belgrade. Let me do it all. So I started, I don't remember in order, but I've tried, as you said, I started running a little bit later on, but I started running. I would run in phases. I would stop. I would run again. I was going to the gym. I was swimming. I was from time to time cycling here in Belgrade. I don't have my own bicycle here. Anytime I want to cycle, I rent a bike. But when I would go for summer break in my hometown with my dad, we would cycle all the time. And that was one of my most precious memories from my university when I would go back to hometown. Every weekend we would go for sunrise, and during the weekday when he finishes work, he would come eat, and then we would go for a sunset bike ride.
Oh,
And
that's so cute.
he would bring me, he knows very well our city and around our city, and he knows that I love nature, so he would bring me to all these like villages and fields around my hometown, and we would just bike for hours, and it was so nice. And the furthest we went was 30 kilometers in one direction, and we spent like an hour and a half break, and then we went back. And I was so impressed that both I and my dad can do it.
It's really cool.
Yeah, because he's in his 50s. He's getting
young.
old.
He's actually young.
He is young. Yeah. So that brought me love to train. I also, in one period of time, I had a personal trainer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had personal trainer.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that was, I think, summer in 2022. I switched from Zumba to high heels dance that I talked about in last episode. And I remember there was a period of time when every day I have activity that I would do. Mondays and Wednesdays were for exercising with trainer. Tuesdays, I think I would have like a rest day. Thursdays are for running. Fridays, Saturdays for dancing, and Sundays for swimming. Every day I would have activity that I would do.
Wait, is this how your decision to make it a lifestyle started? And also, okay. Props to your dad for being such a present figure, dad, because it seems like he carried also this passion for activity throughout university as well.
Yes. I am so thankful for those moments. And we would, when I was younger, we would also play badminton in our backyard. We would go to park to play a little bit of volleyball. I'm very grateful that I had a person to push me, to show me how much this means, like being active means, and how important it is. And especially, I can dive into that a little bit later, because it happened in 2020 at the end of my university. But especially back in that moment when he had some health issues, it showed me how much being active actually helped him.
So
Yeah.
what did he do? How did he use exercise to overcome a health challenge?
So in 2020, he found out that he has tumor, and it was near lungs. I don't know the medical terms. And he went on operation. And when they operated him, they told him that it saved him that he had muscles, so that these didn't just, for the lack of better words, stick everywhere in organs. It was just, he had strong muscle, and it stuck there, and it was easier for them to remove it.
Wow.
Yes.
That literally exercise saving your life.
Yes. Yeah, it showed me once again how much
The importance of staying
just generally yes, the importance of staying active. It is really. And I also, growing up, I always looked in my parents, how they dealt with stress. My dad would turn to exercising, my mom would turn to medication. And I saw both parts, and I decided to choose the fitness one.
That's really interesting. So, right, exercise-wise, you went from like a few years of experimenting with a lot of things and being active. I assume you added things gradually from Zumba to more and more stuff, right? So this was like 3 years, right?
Oh, yeah, it was in the span of 3+ years. Well, 4 if you count that last year of high school.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to tell people. It's a process, and it takes time. If you don't want that yo-yo effect, it takes time to build that.
But how do you stay patient with yourself when, you know, you've chosen this path of taking gradual steps and being kind and not really beating yourself up for not running 20 kilometers in a day. So you've been very gradual with this. One thing that I struggle with, and I think most people struggle with, is being impatient. The reason why people would go through extreme lengths is one of the reasons is being impatient. So how can you accept your body as it is now and take small steps towards a better state? Because in my case, you know, I felt I had a long gap to bridge. So I have to get every detail right. And I think that's what led to my eventual demise. Because, you know, after, yes, you achieve what you want if you are persistent and if you focus on the details and if you really, really care, you know, if you put in the work, you get it. And if you're smart, you get it. But it wasn't for me. It's for fear of talking too much. I'll just give a short summary so I get to the point, because my point is not the weight loss. My point is what happened after the weight loss. It was, for me, I had to go the extreme way, then hit a wall, then decide to go the opposite the way around. And it was the biggest yo-yo effect you could imagine. It was a yo-yo that lasted 2 years one swing, or like 3 years one swing, and 3 more years the other swing. So it was kind of extreme. So to put things into perspective, I've went through 3 years of weight loss and then 3 years of recovery. And in that time of recovery, I really tried to grapple with how I viewed food, and I tried to find a way to, first, for a while I was scared of trying to do weight loss again because I was scared that I would go back into that mentality and to the orthorexia thing. So I took very small changes and I still stayed active, but I was scared of working out too much. What I noticed is if you take very, very small steps, you know, it's not gonna help you very much. Like, for example, if I trained a few times a month just because I love the gym, it's not gonna really pay off. If you eat maybe at a maintenance or maybe not a surplus, but still not weight loss, it's not gonna change, you know, it's not really going to make you lose weight or create a healthy dynamic. You still have to find the sweet spot of working out enough that you get progress, but not too much that you become extreme. So how do you find that?
I think people rely on motivation, and when they lose motivation, it's a problem. That's the whole thing, you know, everyone talking about consistency versus motivation. I saw results and I saw that being consistent gave me results. Luckily, by that time, I realized about this, let's say, issue, motivation versus consistency, that you have motivation when you start doing things and you see results, and that seeing results gives you more motivation. Another thing that helped me when I would hit plateau was some kind of fun challenges I would give to myself.
You are the challenges queen. You always do them.
I do them still. I would have, like, for example, I remember when it was COVID, I went back to my hometown. I didn't go to the gym and I was doing glowing workouts. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna try intermittent fasting. It was the first time I've tried it, and let me do something new. And I did lose weight. Then, you know, I went back to university for exams and everything, and I was, you know, trying to incorporate, still trying to eat healthy and everything. So from time to time, just to make it interesting for me, make it fun for me, I have these kind of like monthly challenges or 90 days challenge or something, you know, to just to spice things up. I did 75 hard twice last
What
year.
a pro.
And later that same year, but I wanted to do it in the winter. I did it in the spring and summer, and I wanted to do it in the winter because in winter we have all the festivities and saint days that we celebrate here, and I wanted to challenge myself to see if I can stay consistent during that period of time when there's food all around you. So I tried to see if I can do it, if I can go through the whole 75 hard and like 75 days of being consistent.
What do you do when you don't feel like it and you still want to be kind to yourself? Because this is something that you do very well, is you stay consistent, but you're still very kind. How do you adjust your workouts to accommodate for that?
I have to say, how do I stay kind to myself is something that I learned through therapy, because it was not specifically, I didn't go to therapy specifically for this, but how I see myself and my self-worth were coming a lot, in the sessions, and we were talking about some other things. And I really, through therapy, had to look myself in the eye, and had to deal with myself. And we did a lot of exercises. I wrote a lot back in that moment. I was journaling for 6, 7 pages after each session. We had sessions every week for 5 months, and then for a few other months, like later, we had twice a month. So there was a lot of mental work that I was doing there, a lot of inner work that I was doing that really complemented this fitness journey. It helps to change your mentality, to change mindsets.
100%. We are hitting gold here because that's the key. That's the thing that I was actually most impressed with, is this mindset. So you were saying that you were doing these exercises and you were finding a way to detach your self-worth from achievement, maybe?
Yeah, and from the looks of the appearance and other people's
Yeah.
validation.
You mentioned how you look, detaching your self-worth from how you look. That's actually an experiment I ran at some point. So it's a key thing when it comes to reaching balance. And in my journey, after I went into recovery, so I can, prove to myself that I'm not attached to this physique to feel happy. And my health was the most important thing. And I knew that at the time. I needed to gain weight to balance my hormones and get my period back. So it was something that I had to do, either if I wanted or not, if I really wanted to have a healthy nervous system. And I must say, the recovery was 10 times harder than the weight loss. Because with the weight loss, you have external validation, you have social, every single time you lose something, people would tell you good things and you make you feel good. Like,
Yeah.
you have external validations that what you're doing is right. And people admire you and they're like, oh my God, you've done something so incredible. But when you actively try to gain weight, nobody is going to ask you, oh my God, how did you gain weight?
Yeah, and I feel like you have to unlearn some things you learned to change many things.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what happened. What happened, and that's how I hit this point where trying to detach. That I hit this point where I was trying to prove myself that I don't need to look a certain way to feel loved, accepted, and appreciated. And it actually works. Like, in the time where I was still overweight, so in my recovery, I went back to the weight I was before I started my fitness journey. So a big increase in a few months. Giovanna wouldn't believe it, but like 6 months before I met her, I was like 30 kilograms.
Yeah,
Like,
recently
lighter.
you sent me photos of you. I don't know how we
Yeah.
started talking about that topic, and you sent me photos of you back then, and it's completely different person. I couldn't, because I met you when you were in your recovery phase, and I couldn't connect you with the images.
Yeah, so it's a very long journey for me, which has spanned like 10 years. But after the recovery part, I went to university and I realized, people really like you for who you are. If you have a good attitude, if you're funny, if you're jolly, if you bring good energy. And I started noticing that, in my mind, I thought people are going to treat me badly if I don't look this way, or I'm not going to be attractive if I don't look this way, or people are not going to, give me attention or something. I'm just not going to be liked. But that did not stop me from doing all of that. So it's actually false. What surprised me is I tried so hard to like lose 30 kilograms to, I don't know, feel more confident, to go out and date people that I thought are attractive. And then in recovery, back to square one, I ended up like dating people that I thought would never look at me because I was that heavy. That never stopped me. And I don't think there were any, maybe like you can get 80%, 90% of what you want without having to have that. Yeah, that's it. That's basically it.
Do you struggle with that sometimes now?
Not really, because after I have gone through this process and I have realized that I'm not just how I look and I'm attractive by how I am, not necessarily how I, by a number on a scale. I don't have that. I really freed myself from that thought. However, I did spend 4 years. So recovery took, getting my period back took a bit over 6 months, something like that. A year maybe, but it was a great moment to see that I wasn't doing something wrong, because throughout the recovery, people would, at least my parents would tell me that I am, this is gonna sound harsh, but that I'm, eating like this, or being very bad in certain ways, because in recovery, especially from orthorexia, you have to let yourself do intuitive eating, and after a period of restriction you end up eating quite a lot. So the next 4 years or so, I tried to improve that intuitive eating, and I intuitively ate for that time, which made me be healthy and energetic, and I still ate healthy, but my portion sizes, were maintenance, was that I maintain. So now, after like a few years later, I am now at the point where I'm not scared to go back into weight loss, and I'm not scared to do it now, but now the right way.
Yeah.
So I guess now I'm trying to be more like you and learn how to do it sustainably, but I struggle with the patience part of it. And the reason why I sent you that photo a few months ago is because, having just started to think about weight loss again, which took me a long time to get to even think about, because I had to be very careful. I was very careful with myself. I started to reminisce. I was like, I miss my old body. I miss the fact that I had to go through this recovery for so long, and only now can I get back to my best self.
Yeah, and I think it's always with this topic, it's always a process. I don't think there's gonna be an end point. Like I think there always gonna be something like I was very much okay with myself and how I saw myself before, for example, before I met Stefan, and then there were some insecurities at the beginning of my relationship, which I mentioned before. Like, you like me, like you're attracted to me, and I think maybe from what I see in other women and other girls go through, like pregnancy and postpartum, it's something that you deal again with your image.
Yeah, it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, but I wanted to ask you, you didn't mention it here, but I know you did ultramarathon. When was that?
Oh yeah, let's talk about fitness for a bit. So I'll give you a long story. Whilst doing my recovery, and after having done my recovery, I didn't stop working out. I mean, I did stop. I significantly reduced the amount and the intensity, but I still loved movement. To me, it's more about my mind than my body, and physical exercise really helps my mind a lot. So I started in my first year of undergraduate during COVID. I started running. No weight loss, no nothing. I just started running, and that built up into doing my 5K, then a 10K, then a half marathon, and then I jumped straight to an ultra marathon when I was bored back home.
For people who don't know, can you describe what is ultramarathon? How is it different than just a regular marathon?
Yeah, there's multiple types of ultramarathons. Anything that's above a marathon, it's considered an ultramarathon. So anything beyond 42 kilometers. This type of marathon that I went to was a 24-hour ultramarathon. So you're supposed to run as much as you can for 24 hours. And it was for a charity event. So I ended up running 54 kilometers in the span of a day. People run overnight, but I didn't. I think it was started in the morning and then stopped somewhere in the evening. But what I did was I took my time with it. But there's ultra marathons that are 48 hours that you do on the mountain. There are ultra marathons that are overnight and you're supposed to finish these things. Like mountain ultra marathon are the next step. So yeah, that's what it was.
Wow, running society is going strong.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. There's so many of them, and I must say, it's a great culture and environment, because everybody there. I remember when I went to my first half marathon here in Romania, I met the most positive people I've ever met in my 20 years of life in Romania at this running marathon. People there were jumping and they were happy and they're like, yeah, man, yeah, I just came back from running 30 kilometers in this mountain that's like 1,000 meters up, and I was like, what?
You said,
and you're happy?
And you did that to yourself purposely. I remember you were mentioning some old lady.
Yeah, my mom's friend, she's like 42, 50.
Oh, sorry, it's not old. I don't know why in my head it was like
she's
older
50.
lady. Okay.
No, there
My
was
parents'
no.
age.
There were older people as well. Like my first half marathon, there was this lady that flew in from abroad to come to this ultra marathon, and like, sorry, his half marathon. And they were my parents' age, and they were like, yeah, we just came off the plane, but now we're here and now we're running, and it was hot, and we were in the middle of the field, and they had no issue, and I was like gasping for air. Like, what are you? You're built different.
Yeah, yes, I was so surprised in Slovenia. There were so many older people, not just running, also cycling. Because I was there for a few days. I stayed to explore, and so many people, older people cycling. And also with running, I would like in 17, 18 kilometers pass by some grandpa, and I'm like, oh my God, you're here? Like, good job. And it was funny at the very last kilometer. From time to time, I like to see, to, catch someone in front of me and see like, okay, can I beat you? Can I pass you? Literally from time to time, when I would maybe get bored during the run, or if it would be difficult, I would see this as kind of, again, me with a challenge. I would just focus on one person and be like, okay, I'm gonna try to pass you. And at the very last kilometer, there was one grandma, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna look at her and I'm gonna pass her. And I was running and just like trying to enjoy it, trying to be faster because I wanted to beat my PR, and I couldn't. After like few minutes of running, I looked like if I passed her, and I didn't. She was still in front of me. I wasn't like actively looking at her the whole time. I was just like, okay, she's my goal. Do I see it in front of me? I do. I still saw her in front of me, and I was really pushing myself in that moment. And I was like, damn, okay. So I would still see her. And I remember like last 20, like 200 meters, 300 meters, I was really just trying, okay, this is my sprint. And in that moment, I wasn't paying attention. It wasn't important for me if I passed her or not. I was just like, okay, let me finish this. And so I don't know. Maybe she finished before me. Maybe she didn't. She was definitely around there. I was like, you go, girl. Like, I was so impressed. So impressed. And I was like, look at me, like 28 years old, and thinking like, oh my God, I'm so fast. I wasn't.
I'm telling you, there were some, like, I met some really feisty grandmas at half marathons. They would just, like, especially, like, I don't know, it's a personality thing, but I remember this one grandma, she really wanted to be, like, to beat me. She just never really, every time I would overtake her, she would, like, speed up. I'm like, where do you get this from? It's honestly, hopefully we're like that when we're their age.
I heard someone say that they had more time to prepare because they're, alive much more than we are. Like, they had more time to prepare. It's something that I said to comfort myself.
Let's talk a bit about running. Let's talk about how it started, because I am not a natural runner, and when I started, I couldn't even run 100 meters outside my block. I remember the first run, I started in winter, so props to me. I was like, I didn't took it easy on myself whatsoever. And when I started, it was just, trying to do a run around the campus. And I remember, honestly, I couldn't run more than like a few hundred meters without stopping to like gasp for air. So it was like very incremental. It was, 100 meters today, 500 meters tomorrow, a kilometer the next day, and I didn't even run every single day. I ran every Saturday. That's it. Every Saturday, trying to do a little bit better than the week before. And that added up to the point where, I'd still struggle to run a 5K, but the challenge was my flatmate challenged me to run a 5K with him by the end of the term, or like the year. And I went with him, and my endurance wasn't that good because I couldn't run without stopping for 5 kilometers at the time. I was such a beginner, and I was also, not fit at all at the time. Just started recovery. That was like 8 months post recovery. Yeah, I struggled with my 5K. My face was red. My flatmate thought I was going to pass out. And then I go home maybe the next month, and the whole summer I just run 10. I remember after hitting my first 10K. So I did my first 10K maybe, I can't remember when, but I remember when, this was maybe next year or something, but I was visiting a friend and I did my first 10K in Bucharest. And after I've done my first 10K and I reached those 2 digits, everything changed. the moment you pass the 2-digit mark,
Uh-huh.
there's so much you can do.
Yeah.
At first you just focus from 1 to 10, 1 to 9, like 5 kilometers is a lot. But then once you reach 10, you're like, oh my God. Then there's like 10, 20, 30, 40, there's nothing stops.
No, yeah. You convince yourself, okay, I'm half of half marathon. I'm
Yeah.
there. I'm there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I had similar beginning. I would run for kilometer or so and I was out of breath. It was so hard and then it was like 3K and it was difficult and I didn't start my plan wasn't to start running. I don't know, I just felt like running and I didn't do it consistently. I would do it I would start when the weather was nice, I would stop when the weather was bad, so I would just do it throughout like few months of the year, from time to time go for a run. That was all. And I think I was more consistent when I started doing all these other activities that I mentioned and those running on Thursdays. That was my thing. It's Thursday, so naturally I'm going for a run. And I remember I ran, I think it was 5K, and I told my therapist that I'm gonna do 5K. And I sent her a screenshot of me doing, I think, 6 or 7K, and she was like, everything you set your mind to, you managed to achieve it. And that was such a boost for me, and it was something that I till this day I repeat to myself, like I achieve everything I set my mind to. And I just started 7K, 13K. I remember when I just randomly decided to, until the end of the year, I'm gonna run 15K, and I did that. I remember everything was perfect, weather, playlist, I felt good, it was so lovely, the scenery was good, and I was like, this is my day, I'm gonna push it. And I ran 15K, and when I finished 15, I went by bus back home because I was like, I'm done, that's it, I'm not doing it anymore. And and that was October, I think, 2022. And then I stopped because it was October and it was getting colder, and I was like, I'm gonna stop now. So I started like when the summer, not summer, but spring started next year. And then slowly started running again. And what pushed me to be more consistent with running was in 2020, well, last year actually, 2024. My company, oh my God, we had opportunity to sign up for races like 10K, 21K, and 42K. And I decided to sign up with my colleague for 10K. And we had a month. And in my head, I was like, okay, I've done this before. I ran 10K once. But in my head, I did it once, I can do it again. I started because it was February and March and it was still cold. I was running on a treadmill. I was going to the gym just to run. And she was still focusing on weights. And I told her that's not going to really help you if you're just doing weights. Combination is perfect, but if you're just focusing on weights, it's not going to help with your running. And so the last 2 weeks before the race, she was like, okay, let me run. And she ran 1 kilometer and she was like, I'm dying, I'm not gonna do it, I can't do it, I'm just gonna go get the t-shirt and that's gonna be it. No. So she quit, but I did it, and it was so emotional. I was so proud. I was so like, oh my God, I'm doing this, and I felt like, people cheering next to you and having those signs, I felt like those are personally for me. They're there for me. Whenever I would lock eyes with someone next on the road cheering, I would like lock eyes and be like,
thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, literally.
Main character much.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, and that's how I was. It was a challenge, and I felt good. I loved the process. Oh my God, I really, especially for this half marathon, I really enjoyed the process. And I think a lot had to do with the period of time when I was preparing for it. I prepared in August, September, October. My first half marathon last year that I did was December. So I started preparing in September, and the weather was really bad. But it gave me confidence because I would go for a cold weather, rainy weather. I would show up. I was so proud, but I didn't enjoy as much as I did for this one now.
Yeah, that's fair. I think trying to think about which one was the most enjoyable to me, but I don't think any of them, I remember them, but the problem with, with me in general is that I set these very big goals, and then that's what I like. For me, it wasn't the process, it was I really really enjoyed the achievement of it. But I don't know, I ended up, I didn't do that many races. I mean, I did do, you know, my first like half marathons and stuff, but I think the most important thing for me was just getting better every time and having a sport where you can change the goalpost. I really enjoy this sort of things. So I really got a lot of satisfaction from, you know, being able to go from 10K to 15K, then from 15K to 20, then from 20 to 25, and so on. And I think also treadmill wise, one of my favorite exercises were at the gym. But what I'm trying to do, because I'm trying to keep it coherent, is yeah, the way I would if I were to just say the way I train for these things, I think mine were a lot more sporadic, whereas yours were very consistent again. And I'm also actually kind of surprised because, you know, I thought you started running before you started your first race. But in fact, you said you did a 15 kilometer beforehand?
Yes. I started running. I went on Strava, and in 2020, I had my first run of 3 kilometers for like 20 something minutes. Took me 20 something minutes. And yeah, I was running from 2020. But again, I didn't focus on running. I was just running when I felt like it. That was it. And then in 2022, I ran my 15K. And
Wasn't
then
it?
a year and a half later, I started actively running.
So, what was your first race?
First race actually last year.
No. You said you went on a 10K with your friend.
That was last year. 15K was just me for myself. On random Saturday, I decided I want to do it today. It wasn't race officially.
And that was before the 10K.
Yes. That was before the race that I had officially signed up last year. Because I was practicing in 2022. I was running, but it wasn't for the race, it wasn't for anything. It was just for the sake of running. And to get to 15K, like you run 7, 8, 10, 13K, but I didn't take it as I don't know. I ran, I think.
Gradually?
Yeah, I ran 7, 8K, maybe 10. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do 15. Till the end of the year, I gave myself that limit. And then when I did that in October, I stopped because the weather was bad and I wasn't. I
Okay,
stopped.
I see now. Yeah, similar. I also had a similar thing. There was a pretty big chunk of time between my first 10K and the ultra marathon. I went from a 5K to a half a marathon in like 3 weeks, 3 months, sorry.
No.
3 months, something like that.
Uh-huh.
So I really pushed myself and I increased the distance way too fast, which is something that I wouldn't advise people on doing. Depends how extreme you want to be. But I went from like 5 and then did my first 10 and then prepared for a half marathon, which it was actually a bit under a half, so it was 18 kilometers. And I prepared during the prep time, I would do similar distances, so 10K plus, 15K plus, 17K plus. And then on race day, I was super overtrained because in 3 months I ran basically hundreds of 100 kilometers or something, and that's not a good way to go into a race. It's like with everything, even with sport, you have to take it bit by bit and go slowly. And then from the half marathon, you know, to the I've then raced and ran 20 something, and then from 24 I went straight to the ultra marathon because there was the opportunity. So in the ultra, I've never run a half marathon before the ultra, so I went straight beyond that. So my strategy was, I knew I can run 25K, so I'll run 24K, 25K in one session, take a break, then run another 24, 25K, and then top it up in the end and reach 54. So I never really ran a full-on 54K pure, just like running, no stopping. I split into 2 half marathons. So it was easier just because the training was lacking. But if I were to go back in there again, running is definitely something that if you don't do gradually, you lose it, especially for endurance sports. So I highly recommend to just start slow, get used to creating the routine, get used to showing up all the time, even if you don't feel like it, even if it's rainy, and, gradually try to improve. Do look at pace, because maybe you don't, but my pace is really bad. So I think pace is important. Just try to take it slow, and over time you'll become a very good runner. And ideally, the biggest achievement is not the medal at the end of the race, is not having like a bajillion different races under your name. It's, that run in the forest where you feel like you're one with nature, that run in the middle of the afternoon where you're just zoning out and you reach the runner's high. The runner's high is the most, that's the greatest thing. It's that I find in running.
Yes, and when, for example, it's cold outside and you reach kilometer 2 or 3, whatever it needed you to warm up, and it's cold out, but you feel warm. It's so sweet. It's so lovely. Yeah, and you mentioned pace. I didn't care for it as well in my race as well, the 10K, both 10Ks that I did and first half marathon. I didn't care about it. I just cared to finish it. And
Yeah,
especially, I don't know if you remember for yourself, but for me, last 5Ks in that first kilometer was so hard. Like 16K was, I struggled both physically and mentally. I really had to be there for myself in that moment, especially because that
same.
race was from one city to another. So we really didn't have people between start line and finish line to cheer us up. So it was just you, you and other people running, and it was so hard. And I just wanted to finish. And for this half marathon, I wanted, when I saw that I could beat my PR, I wanted to do
To do it.
it.
You see, but
Yeah.
there is a very clear difference between the environments, because I also found that when I did my first half marathon, it was a trail run. Trail runs are in nature, they're not in the city. So you would be in, vineyards and fields and forests, literally all in one, like cobblestone and stuff like that, all in one race. Lord help me. I
Yeah.
really also hated my last 5K. It was hilly, and I always trained, on terrain in the city, on asphalt, on flat terrain. Definitely not prepared for a trail run. And then my half marathon was on the beach, even
Oh
worse.
my God.
It was like my ultra was on the beach. However, what made it better with the ultra is that it was the same lap every time, but it was near a very busy area. It was a city, it was a resort, there was a lot of noise, there was lots of music, there was lots of people, and that kept you going. And I don't think, and there was also a lot of like people, like food and fuel stations and hydration, especially because it was super warm, and that helped a lot. But you
Damn.
also, for you, it really changes when there's people around.
Yeah. Damn, girl, you're like, how can I make this more difficult?
I
Whoa.
didn't want to.
It wasn't me. um, but now looking
Yeah.
back to everything so far, not just what we talked about, but your whole fitness journey up until this moment, what would you say? What was something that you are most proud of? What was a big achievement for you?
Mm.
It doesn't have to be just
Interesting.
one, of course.
Would you like to answer that first? Because I need time to think.
I think for me, mindset that I changed, things that I've done to my body, literally, and now that I'm doing for my body is the biggest thing that I did.
Mm.
Because as you mentioned in one moment, things like all those yo-yo diets and pushing too much, it didn't show that we loved our bodies. I would say that these were things that we do to our bodies. As a form of, maybe not of course consciously, but now looking it back, it feels like punishing it. But now everything that I'm doing is for my body. It comes from that love that I want to be healthy. I want to, tomorrow have children, be able to run after them, to be able to be active with them, to be able to be older, old lady, and be able to run, like maybe not full
Yeah.
marathons, but like, be active and just longevity, to have that, to, because it's not only just about, again, it changed a lot when it was also about mental health,
Health.
not only about physical health.
Yeah. Key
And
thing.
Yeah, that would be something that I am most proud of. Every little thing that I do, every little thing that you achieve, like those things where they're tangible, like crossing that finish line, it's a very special, proud moment, and it makes me
Yeah.
emotional. But me being able to enjoy that process at the end, now that I so much enjoy the whole preparation for the race now, and also the full race, and it took me like 2 weeks to went back running again. Like, I didn't have that, oh my god, now I'm not, I don't want to run after my half marathon, I don't want to think about run. No, 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 I
Oh my God.
won't. I want to keep the momentum.
I almost want to ask two questions. Can I ask
Mm-hmm.
you first,
Mm-hmm.
how do you stay motivated after a run? Because to combine both answers. After my ultra marathon, I stopped running, and I mean, I also hit a point in my life where my mental health was kind of low, so it was very
Mm-hmm.
difficult for me to go through it. And I also changed some things. I didn't want to push my body to the extremes that I did. And again, the all or nothing, mentality, do it all and then stop. But now, I really loved your answer. Now, after having gone through the recovery and having gone through the diet and having tried again to do the weight loss, now I'm approaching weight loss and my body in general and fitness through this lens of, yes, doing something for my body, not to my body. I must say, I'm not perfect at it. I think naturally, for me, it's a bit harder to not have, that self-critical inner voice. But because I've took the time to prove to myself that it's okay to take it slower and to be more gentle when needed, now I know that I can enjoy a workout with knowing that it's a balanced workout. And for
Mm-hmm.
example, now these days I'm more active, I'm back in the gym, I'm back with the routine, and I'm back focusing on performance, which is something that I love. And that's exactly what you said, is that
Mm-hmm.
crossing that finish line and doing that thing. Honestly, sports is such an amazing thing, and it's something that I wish I did when I was a kid, because it really makes you feel, it builds that self-confidence
Yeah.
in the most fundamental way. And I also think that what helped me with my self-development itself, I coincidentally started my self-development journey with my nutrition journey as well, my health journey. And I do think those two go hand in hand,
Mm-hmm.
because the act of trying and pushing yourself and doing that one last rep, doing that one last kilometer, it trains your body to be more resilient, and your mind.
Yes, and I just want to quickly go back to what we talked to
Hmm.
circle it with the topic we talked about at the very beginning, like our traditional food and how unhealthy it is. I don't, for example, when I try to adjust it to be more healthier, I don't do it because I don't eat it in a way that, for example, my mom traditionally made it, not because I'm afraid that I'm gonna gain weight if I eat it like that, but because I know how much, for example, oil and other extra stuff that
Hmm.
are not, necessary per se, are put in that I'm aware of what it does
Hmm.
long term to my body.
Yeah.
And it comes like me changing this, some switching some things. It comes purely for, I want to take care of myself.
On that note, I think the best thing you can do, the best way to approach it, is with patience, with enthusiasm for trying to love an activity and a hobby and something to add to your life.
For gratitude as well, I would add that you
Hmm.
have body and ability to move it,
Yes.
to use it,
Yes,
to
yes,
challenge it.
gratitude. Yes, to be honest, that is a very frequent feeling I feel when I do sports, is
Yeah.
especially when you get good at things. Is like, oh my god, I'm so proud of my legs for being able to
Yes.
run this long.
Yes.
So, if anybody out there is confused with this or is trying to find a way to find a middle ground, just know that it will happen if you stay consistent, if you enjoy the process, if you take little actions every day, step by step. You'll end up looking like a fit person because you will have fitness in your life, yes. But more importantly, try to take out the idea that you're doing this because you don't like something about yourself. You're doing
Yeah.
this to reach your best version. You are already a great person, but you'll be developed fully fledged after you've incorporate fitness and these healthy habits.
I want to say this just to add a very nice question that I heard from again, YouTuber. What is your favorite version? Not only to ask what is your best version, but what is your favorite version of yourself? And I really like that question. And it's, for me, my favorite version is when I am doing all these things, fitness, healthy related. Because you cannot not love how you feel when you're doing good things for your body and your
Yeah.
mind.
Oh, I love that question. And it also kind of helps people like me who might be a bit more self-critical. It's detaching the what's your favorite version versus what's your best version. Because the best version might be the person that's obsessing over details and, getting 100% at, a fitness test or an exam or something. But the
Yeah.
favorite version is the one that's 90% the way there and happy. Cool.
Yes.
I feel like this is a conversation that should have a part two.
I agree. I agree. And we couldn't finish on a better note this part.
Exactly. Do you want to finish, Yoba? No?
Yo. No. Well, on this note, we are gonna finish our episode for today. Talked about how we started our fitness journey, our transformation from doing things that it wasn't necessarily healthy for us, but we didn't know better, and we slowly but surely educated ourselves and learned about food and nutritionism and training. We eventually came where we are now. And we are, from what I can say, we are very proud of who we are and what we're doing for ourselves, for our mental health, for our physical health, and all the little things that we're practicing now.
Yeah, we covered that. We're definitely proud of the journey, and there's a lot more to share. I think that this is something that has covered a lot of aspects, from nutrition to mental health to fitness. We geeked out a lot on running, which is a very popular thing these days. But if you'd like to know more, and if you'd like to eventually see maybe some snapshots of Jovana's Strava on Instagram, follow us at Chicas Plus Equals on Instagram and TikTok, and also Chicas Plus Equal on Spotify and YouTube. We post every Wednesday, and we hope to catch up with you soon and in the next episode. Also, if you have any questions or anything sports related, it will be very fun to do a Q&A. So
Yes.
if you have any questions about sports, let us know and we'll cover it. Cool. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Bye.